The scream pierced through the autumn air, like a blade through silk, high and desperate, and utterly terrifying. 12-year-old Mia Rodriguez hit the asphalt playground with a sickening thud. Her left arm twisted at an unnatural angle beneath her small frame. The metal leg brace on her right leg scraped against the concrete, sparks flying in the afternoon sunlight, as Officer Jake Harrison of the Willowbrook HOA Security Division pressed his knee into her back. "Stop resisting!" Harrison shouted, his voice carrying across the schoolyard where 30 other children stood frozen in horror. "You're under citizen's arrest for inciting violence." Mia's face was pressed against the cold ground, tears streaming down her cheeks as she struggled to breathe. Her backpack had spilled open, scattering homework papers and her inhaler across the pavement. The playground that moments before had been filled with the normal chaos of recess now fell into an eerie silence, broken only by Mia's labored breathing and the distant sound of teachers running toward them. Just 15 minutes earlier, Mia had been sitting on her favorite bench near the swing sets, watching her classmates play. She preferred the quiet corner of the playground, where she could read her book and avoid the rougher games that her leg brace made difficult to join. The September sun was warm on her face, and she was lost in the pages of her novel when the shouting started. Two boys from her grade, Marcus and Dylan, had gotten into an argument over a basketball. What started as trash talk quickly escalated into pushing and shoving. Mia looked up from her book to see Marcus shove Dylan hard enough to send him stumbling backward toward the younger children's play area. "Hey, stop it!" Mia called out, struggling to her feet with the help of her crutch. "You're going to hurt someone." She limped toward them as quickly as she could, her brace clicking against the pavement with each step. Marcus and Dylan were both bigger than her, 8th graders who rarely paid attention to anyone younger. But Mia had never been one to back down from doing what was right. "Marcus, come on, this is stupid," she said, positioning herself between the two boys. "Mrs. Patterson is going to suspend both of you if she sees this." Dylan wiped blood from his split lip, his anger still burning hot. "Mind your own business, Gimpy. This doesn't concern you." The cruel nickname stung, but Mia held her ground. She had dealt with bullies before. "It concerns me when you're acting like idiots near the little kids," she replied firmly. "Look around you. There are first graders right there." Marcus seemed to deflate slightly, his eyes following Mia's gesture toward the group of 6-year-olds who had stopped their games to stare at the commotion. "She's right. Dylan. Let's just forget it." But Dylan wasn't ready to let it go. "No way. This little cripple doesn't get to tell us what to do." He stepped closer to Mia, his fists still clenched. "You think you're so much better than everyone else. Don't you always reading your stupid books, acting all superior?" Mia's heart raced, but she kept her voice steady. "I'm not trying to be superior. I'm trying to keep you from doing something really dumb." That's when Officer Harrison appeared, his black uniform and silver badge glinting in the sunlight. Jake Harrison had been patrolling the Willowbrook neighborhood for 3 years, ever since the Homeowners Association had decided to hire private security to keep their community safe and orderly. At 35, he was a failed police academy washout who had found his calling in the petty authority of HOA enforcement. "What's going on here?" Harrison demanded, his hand resting on the pepper spray attached to his belt. He had been making his rounds near the school when he heard the commotion, and his instincts told him he was about to make an arrest that would finally get him noticed by the real police department. Several children started talking at once, their voices overlapping in explanation. But Harrison's eyes were fixed on Mia, who was still standing between the two boys with her crutch in hand. "You," he pointed at her with a thick finger. "Step away from them." "Officer, I was just trying to break up a fight," Mia explained, confusion clear in her voice. These two were... I said step away. Harrison's voice rose to a shout that made several of the younger children start crying. "I witnessed you threatening these boys, instigating violence. That's a violation of Municipal Code 47B. Mia blinked in shock. "I wasn't threatening anyone. I was trying to stop them from fighting." "Don't lie to me, kid." Harrison stepped closer, and Mia could smell the coffee on his breath, mixed with something else. Something that made her stomach turn. "I saw you positioning yourself aggressively, using that crutch as a weapon." The accusation was so absurd that Mia almost laughed. "As a weapon, I need it to walk." But Harrison had made up his mind. In his 3 years of HOA patrol, he had written hundreds of citations for lawn violations and noise complaints. But he had never made a real arrest. This disabled girl would be easy prey, and witnessing her aggressive behavior would look good on his incident report. "Turn around and put your hands behind your back," he ordered, reaching for his zip-tie restraints. "What, no?" Mia backed away, her crutch clicking against the pavement. "You can't arrest me. I didn't do anything wrong." That's when Mrs. Patterson, the playground supervisor, came running over. A woman in her 50s with graying hair and 20 years of teaching experience. She had been watching the situation unfold from across the yard. "Officer Harrison, there's been a misunderstanding," she said breathlessly. Mia was helping to de-escalate a situation between two other students. She wasn't causing any trouble. Harrison's jaw tightened. He hated being questioned by civilians, especially women who thought they knew better than law enforcement. "Ma'am, I need you to step back. This is now a police matter." "You're not police," Mrs. Patterson said firmly. "You're HOA security, and this is school property. You have no jurisdiction here." The words hit Harrison like a slap across the face. His authority challenged, his competence questioned in front of children and colleagues. The rage that had been simmering beneath the surface of his professional demeanor finally boiled over. "I have citizens' arrest powers," he snarled, grabbing for Mia's arm. "And this girl is under arrest for inciting violence and resisting lawful commands." Mia tried to pull away, but her movement was limited by her leg brace and crutch. "Don't touch me! You're hurting me!" Harrison's grip tightened on her thin wrist. "Stop resisting, or I'll add assaulting an officer to the charges." "Let go of her, Mrs." Patterson lunged forward, but Harrison shoved her back with his free hand, sending the older woman stumbling. What happened next would be captured on 3 different cell phone cameras held by horrified students. Harrison grabbed Mia's crutch and threw it aside, sending her off balance. As she struggled to stay upright, he seized her by both arms and wrestled her to the ground with unnecessary force. The sound of Mia's arm breaking was audible to everyone within 20 feet. A sharp crack, like a dry branch snapping. Her scream that followed would haunt the dreams of every child who witnessed it. "My arm! Oh God! My arm!" Mia sobbed, her face contorted in agony, as Harrison pressed his knee into her back to keep her down. Several teachers were running toward them now, along with Mr. Hendricks, the school principal. Students were crying, some filming with their phones, others running to get help. The peaceful Tuesday afternoon had turned into a nightmare. "Get off her right now," Mr. Hendricks shouted as he reached them. "She's injured. She needs medical attention." Harrison looked up, his face flushed, and his breathing heavy. The reality of what he had done was starting to sink in. but his pride wouldn't let him back down. She was resisting arrest. I used appropriate force. Appropriate force. Mrs. Patterson was kneeling beside Mia now, trying to comfort the injured girl. She's a 12-year-old child with a disability. Look what you've done to her. Mia's left arm was clearly broken, bent at an unnatural angle just below the elbow. Her face was pale with shock, and she was having trouble breathing through her tears and panic. "I need my inhaler," she whispered. "Please. I can't breathe." Mr. Hendricks grabbed the inhaler from among the scattered contents of Mia's backpack and helped her use it while Mrs. Patterson called 911 on her cell phone. "This is Linda Patterson at Willowbrook Elementary. We need an ambulance immediately. A 12-year-old student has been injured during an altercation with a security officer. Her arm appears to be broken, and she's having difficulty breathing." Harrison finally released his hold on Mia and stood up, brushing dirt from his uniform. He was already mentally preparing his incident report, crafting a version of events that would justify his actions. The suspect was non-compliant and posed a threat to other students. I followed proper procedures. Proper procedures. Mr. Hendricks stood up to face Harrison, his usually calm demeanor replaced by barely controlled fury. "You just broke a disabled child's arm for trying to stop a fight." Within minutes, the paramedics arrived, followed closely by actual police officers. Detective Maria Santos was the first law enforcement officer on the scene, and she immediately took control of the situation. "I need everyone to step back except for school staff and the injured student," Detective Santos announced. "Officer Harrison, I need to speak with you privately." As the paramedics carefully loaded Mia onto a stretcher, she looked up at Mrs. Patterson with tears streaming down her face. "Will you call my mom? Please tell her what happened. Tell her I tried to do the right thing." Mrs. Patterson squeezed Mia's uninjured hand. "Of course, sweetheart. Your mother will be so proud of you for standing up for those boys. You were very brave." As the ambulance pulled away with Mia inside, the students were herded back into the school building. But the damage was already done. Within 30 minutes, cell phone videos of the incident were being uploaded to social media platforms by teenagers who had witnessed the assault. The first video, posted by 14-year-old Jessica Chen, showed the moment Harrison threw Mia to the ground. The caption read, "HOA Cop just broke a disabled girl's arm at our school for trying to stop a fight. This is so messed up. Yushkacher justice for Mia." The video went viral within hours. At Willowbrook General Hospital, Mia underwent surgery to repair her fractured ulna and radius. The orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Rebecca Martinez, was appalled by the extent of the injuries. "This level of trauma is consistent with a high-impact collision or significant force," she explained to the nurses. "It's going to require plates and screws to properly heal. This poor child will need months of physical therapy." Meanwhile, across town at the police headquarters, Commissioner Elena Rodriguez was in her office reviewing budget reports when her assistant knocked on the door. "Commissioner, there's been an incident at Willowbrook Elementary involving a security officer and a student. The child was injured and transported to the hospital." Elena looked up from her paperwork, her dark eyes immediately focused. At 42, she had been leading the city's police force for 3 years, and she took every incident involving children seriously. "What kind of incident? Was it one of our officers?" "No, ma'am. It was an HOA security officer. Apparently, there was an altercation on the playground, and a 12-year-old girl was injured during an arrest." Elena frowned. An arrest HOA security doesn't have arrest powers beyond citizen's arrest. And that's only for witnessing actual crimes. What was the child alleged to have done? According to the initial report, the officer claimed she was inciting violence, but witnesses say she was trying to break up a fight between two other students. Something cold settled in Elena's stomach. What's the child's name? Her assistant consulted his notes. Mia Rodriguez. She's being treated at Willowbrook General for a broken arm. The color drained from Elena's face. Rodriguez was a common name. But there was only one 12-year-old Mia Rodriguez who attended Willowbrook Elementary. Get me Detective Santos on the phone. Now. As her assistant hurried to make the call, Elena's hands trembled slightly as she reached for her personal cell phone. She had 3 missed calls from the school and 2 voicemails. The first was from Mrs. Patterson. Mrs. Rodriguez, this is Linda Patterson from Willowbrook Elementary. There's been an incident involving Mia during recess. She's being taken to the hospital. But I want you to know that she was trying to help other students when this happened. She was very brave. Please call me back as soon as you get this. The second voicemail was from the hospital. Mrs. Rodriguez, this is Willowbrook General Hospital. Your daughter Mia has been admitted for treatment of a fractured arm. She's stable and in surgery now. Please come to the emergency department as soon as possible. Elena's world tilted on its axis. Her daughter, her brilliant, compassionate, brave little girl, had been injured by a security officer while trying to do the right thing. The irony wasn't lost on her that she, the city's top law enforcement official, was learning about her own child's assault through official police channels. She grabbed her keys and badge, her mind already shifting into the cold, analytical mode that had made her one of the most effective police commissioners in the state. Someone had hurt her daughter, and they were going to answer for it. When Detective Santos called back, Elena was already in her car, speeding toward the hospital. Santos, I need a full report on the Willowbrook Elementary incident. Everything you have. Commissioner, the initial investigation suggests the HOA officer used excessive force. The child was attempting to mediate a dispute between 2 other students when... The child is my daughter, Elena interrupted, her voice deadly quiet. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Commissioner, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I want that officer arrested and charged with assault on a minor. I want his credentials reviewed and his employment terminated. And I want a full investigation into the HOA's security practices. Yes, ma'am. We've already secured the scene and collected witness statements. Multiple students recorded the incident on their phones. Good. I want copies of all video evidence preserved. This case is going to trial. At the hospital, Elena found Mia in the recovery room, her left arm encased in a bright pink cast that extended from her wrist to her elbow. Her daughter was awake but groggy from the anesthesia, her usually bright eyes dulled by pain medication. Mom. Mia's voice was small and confused. You came? Elena sat carefully on the edge of the hospital bed, her heart breaking at the sight of her injured child. Of course I came. Baby, I'm so sorry I wasn't there sooner. It hurts, Mia whispered, tears sliding down her cheeks. I was just trying to help Marcus and Dylan stop fighting. I didn't do anything wrong. Mom, I promise I didn't do anything wrong. Elena gently brushed her daughter's hair back from her forehead. The protective fury burning in her chest was unlike anything she had ever experienced. I know you didn't, sweetheart. You did exactly what I taught you to do. You tried to help, and you stood up for what was right. The officer said I was a criminal. He said I was threatening people with my crutch. Mia's voice broke. Why would he say that? Why would he hurt me? Elena struggled to find words that would make sense to a 12-year-old. How do you explain to a child that some people abuse their authority? How do you tell your daughter that the world isn't always fair, especially to people who are different? Sometimes people make very bad decisions, she said finally. Sometimes people hurt others because they're scared or angry or because they don't understand. But that doesn't make it right. And it doesn't mean you did anything wrong. Dr. Martinez entered the room with Mia's chart in hand. The surgery went well. We had to insert a plate and 6 screws to stabilize the fractures. But with proper care and physical therapy, she should regain full use of her arm. Elena stood up to shake the doctor's hand. Thank you for taking care of her. How long will the recovery take? 6 to 8 weeks in the cast, followed by several months of physical therapy. The good news is that children heal remarkably well, but she'll need to take it easy for a while. As the doctor left, Elena's phone buzzed with a text message from Detective Santos. Video evidence is going viral. Local news wants a statement. How do you want to handle media? Elena looked down at her daughter, who had fallen asleep again, exhausted by the trauma and medication. She had a choice to make. She could handle this quietly, through official channels, keeping her family's privacy intact. Or she could use her position and the public attention to ensure that justice was served not just for Mia, but for every child who might face similar treatment in the future. She stepped into the hallway and called Detective Santos back. Schedule a press conference for tomorrow morning. I want to address this publicly. Are you sure that's wise? Commissioner, this could put a lot of scrutiny on your family. My daughter was assaulted by someone who was supposed to serve and protect our community. If I won't stand up for her, who will? Meanwhile, back at Willowbrook Elementary, Principal Hendricks was dealing with a crisis of his own. Parents were calling demanding answers. The school board was scheduling an emergency meeting, and the local news vans were already parked outside the school. Board member Patricia Walsh, a stern woman in her 60s who had been advocating for increased security measures in schools, was the first to arrive at the emergency meeting that evening. This is exactly why we need professional security, she declared to the assembled board members. If we had real police officers instead of relying on volunteers and part-time supervision, this never would have happened. Board President Michael Chen, Jessica's father, disagreed strongly. Patricia, a professional security officer, is exactly what caused this problem. The issue isn't the qualifications of our security personnel. The issue is that any adult thought it was appropriate to physically assault a child. The video footage was played during the closed session of the meeting, and the room fell silent as board members watched Harrison throw Mia to the ground. The sound of her arm breaking was clearly audible, as were her screams of pain. Board member Dr. Sarah Kim, a pediatrician, was visibly shaken. This is unconscionable. That child could have been killed. What if she had hit her head on the concrete? What if her leg brace had been damaged and caused additional injury? The question is, what do we do now? Asked board member Robert Torres. The damage is done. How do we protect our students and rebuild trust with the community? Principal Hendricks spoke up. I've already suspended all HOA security patrols on school property. We need to completely review our policies regarding outside security personnel and their authority on campus. The meeting continued past midnight, but by morning, the board had reached several decisions. They would terminate the contract with the HOA security service, implement new training requirements for all security personnel, and establish a clear protocol for handling student conflicts that prioritize de-escalation over physical intervention. The next morning, Commissioner Rodriguez stood at the podium in the police headquarters press room, facing a crowd of reporters and cameras. Mia sat beside her in a wheelchair, her arm in its bright pink cast, her leg brace visible beneath her school uniform. Yesterday, my daughter Mia Rodriguez was assaulted by an HOA security officer while trying to prevent a fight between two of her classmates. Elena began, her voice steady, but filled with controlled emotion. She was thrown to the ground with such force that her arm was broken in two places, requiring surgery and the insertion of metal plates and screws. Cameras flashed as reporters scribbled notes. As a mother, I am heartbroken and furious that my child was hurt while trying to do the right thing. As a police commissioner, I am appalled that someone claiming to represent law and order would use such excessive force against a 12-year-old child with a disability. Elena's voice grew stronger as she continued. Jake Harrison will be charged with assault and battery on a minor, excessive use of force, and violating the civil rights of a disabled person. His employment with the Willowbrook HOA has been terminated, and we are reviewing all previous incidents involving his conduct. A reporter raised her hand. Commissioner Rodriguez, some people are saying this is a conflict of interest since your daughter is the victim. How do you respond to that? Elena's eyes flashed. Every victim of police misconduct deserves justice, regardless of who their parents are. The fact that I am in a position to ensure that justice is served doesn't make it a conflict of interest. It makes it my responsibility. Another reporter called out, what would you say to other parents who are concerned about security in schools? I would say that security should mean keeping our children safe from harm, not creating new sources of danger. The adults we trust to protect our kids should be trained in de-escalation, not quick to use force against children who are trying to help their peers. Mia looked up at her mother with pride shining in her eyes. Despite everything she had been through, she was witnessing her mother turn her pain into purpose, her trauma into a force for change. After the press conference, Elena helped Mia into their car for the drive home. Are you okay with what we just did? She asked her daughter. I know it's scary to have so much attention. Mia adjusted her seatbelt carefully around her cast. It's scary, but it's also important. If we don't say anything, he might hurt another kid. And maybe other kids who saw what happened will feel safer knowing that adults are listening. Elena smiled, her heart swelling with pride. Her daughter's wisdom and compassion continued to amaze her, even in the midst of such difficult circumstances. Over the next few weeks, the story continued to gain national attention. Parents across the country shared their own stories of excessive discipline in schools and inappropriate use of force against children. Advocacy groups for disabled children used Mia's case to push for better training and stricter oversight of security personnel in educational settings. Jake Harrison was indicted on multiple charges and eventually pleaded guilty to assault and battery on a minor. He was sentenced to 2 years in prison and ordered to pay for Mia's medical expenses and ongoing therapy. The Willowbrook HOA faced a civil lawsuit that resulted in a substantial settlement and a complete overhaul of their security policies. The school board's new policies became a model for other districts, emphasizing restorative justice over punitive measures and requiring extensive training for any security personnel working with children. They also established a student advocacy program that empowered kids like Mia to serve as peer mediators in conflicts. 3 months after the incident, Mia returned to school with her cast finally removed. Her arm was still weak and required continued physical therapy. But Dr. Martinez was pleased with her progress. The scar from her surgery was barely visible, and she had regained most of her strength and range of motion. On her first day back, Mia was nervous about facing her classmates. She worried that they would see her differently now, that she would be known as the girl who got hurt rather than just Mia. But when she walked into her classroom, she was greeted by a banner that read, "Welcome back, Mia," and a round of applause from her fellow students. Marcus and Dylan, the two boys whose fight she had tried to break up, approached her desk during lunch. "Mia, we wanted to thank you," Marcus said quietly. "You got hurt because you were trying to help us, and we're really sorry." Dylan nodded earnestly. "We've been going to the peer mediation training because of what happened. We want to learn how to solve problems without fighting." Mia smiled at both of them. "That's really great. And you don't need to apologize. I'm just glad you're both okay." Mrs. Patterson, who had become something of a hero herself for standing up to Harrison, stopped by Mia's desk after class. "How are you feeling about being back?" "Good," Mia replied honestly. "Different, but good. I think maybe some good things came out of what happened, even though it was really scary and painful. You know, I've been teaching for 20 years, and I've never seen a student show as much courage as you did that day, not just in trying to break up the fight, but in how you've handled everything since then." Mia blushed at the praise. "I just tried to do what my mom taught me. Stand up for what's right, even when it's hard." 6 months later, at the annual Willowbrook Community Awards ceremony, Mia Rodriguez was presented with the Young Citizen of the Year award for her bravery in standing up for her fellow students and her grace in handling the aftermath of her assault. As she stood at the podium with her mother beside her, Mia looked out at the crowd of community members, teachers, students, and local officials. The same playground where she had been hurt was now a symbol of positive change, with new conflict resolution programs and a commitment to protecting all children. "When I tried to break up that fight, I never imagined what would happen next," Mia said into the microphone, her voice clear and strong. "I definitely never imagined I'd be standing here with this award, but I learned something important through all of this." She paused, looking at her mother, who nodded encouragingly. "I learned that doing the right thing isn't always easy, and it doesn't always work out the way you expect. Sometimes you get hurt. Sometimes people don't understand. But that doesn't mean you should stop trying to help." The audience was completely silent, hanging on every word. "I also learned that when one person gets hurt for trying to do the right thing, it can inspire a whole community to stand up and make things better for everyone. That's more powerful than any one person, even someone who misuses their authority." Mia held up her award, the crystal catching the light from the stage spotlights. "This award doesn't belong just to me. It belongs to Mrs. Patterson, who stood up for me when I couldn't stand up for myself. It belongs to all the students who recorded what happened and shared it so people would know the truth. It belongs to my mom, who used her position to make sure justice was served. It belongs to all of you, who decided that what happened to me was not okay, and that our community could do better." The applause that followed was thunderous, with many people in the audience wiping away tears. Commissioner Rodriguez stood up and embraced her daughter, whispering in her ear, "I'm so proud of you, baby. You've shown everyone what real courage looks like." As they walked off the stage together, Mia leaned on her mother's arm, not because she needed the physical support, but because she wanted to be close to the woman who had taught her that strength comes not from avoiding difficult situations, but from facing them with dignity and purpose. The broken arm had healed, But the lessons learned and the changes implemented would last much longer. In the end, one 12-year-old girl's refusal to stand by while others were hurt had transformed an entire community's approach to protecting its children. And as Mia looked out at the faces of the people who had supported her through the darkest time of her young life, she knew that standing up for what's right, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, was always worth it.